Hey everybody, Ty here. I hope everyone is doing well. As you can see, there is a lot going on here. We talked about the tropics a little bit yesterday. There have been a couple of small changes here. We're not going to really go in depth with that in this case because there's not really a need at this point. We already know about Dexter. We're already aware of our two areas of interest here. We do have a potential tropical wave about to set up shop over here just off the southeast coast. Now, rain chances, of course, are going to remain high with this, but for the most part, I wouldn't expect too much out of this in regards to land impacts. I wouldn't expect a major storm from this feature either. So, these two, I would say Dexter and our next potential named storm here, not a whole lot to worry about. This storm that's over towards the main development region of the Atlantic, and you can kind of see what's going on over here on satellite. I'm still a little bit up in the air when it comes to that, because this is going to head into a more favorable environment over time, and chances for development are expected to go up. Hence why we have a 50% chance of development within the next 7 days. We'll of course be keeping an eye on that and maybe talking about that every couple of days or so, depending on how things progress throughout the week, but I wouldn't be too concerned with it as of right now. It's a little bit too early to tell just where this thing would end up going, if it even forms. So a lot more questions than answers at this point. So we'll take the satellite off of the screen for now, and we'll get into the severe weather side of things, because that's probably going to be the most relevant thing in this video, not just in regards to today, because we have a slight risk, but we also have a day 4 slight risk for Friday as well. And now Thursday, day 3, now has been also upgraded to a slight risk as well. That upgrade came in pretty recently, actually, within the last hour. So looking at our threat for today, it's an all hazards kind of day. Everything is at slight risk parameters. We do have a 5% tornado threat area over here that stretches from both sides of the Dakotas, both north and south, which even includes Bismarck, North Dakota, Pierre, South Dakota, and also Aberdeen as well. So it's going to be a interesting evening. I expect these storms to actually start to develop within the next hour or two of me, or the next hour of you or two of you seeing this video. It'll probably be about 2 or 3 hours from the time of me making this video. But simply put, the feature that we have coming in from Northern California and the Northwest is going to come in along with a frontal boundary. And if you actually were to go back on the screen here, you can actually start to see these storms beginning to fire at the time of me making the video. So if we go back this way, I would expect the central parts of both North and South Dakota to get into the action here in just a little bit. I'm really interested in this tornado threat in regards to any potential supercells that may end up developing with this, because with our parameters in play, I do think that we'll have enough low-level jet in there to have a chance for a notable tornado or two, and also some damaging winds to go with that. As we get early into this threat, I also think hail is going to be possible, and then we'll kind of propagate into a wind threat as we get later into the evening as these storms continue to congeal. With the upper levels of the atmosphere being set the way they are, venting is possible for these storms, which is going to be a key component to supercells. But like I said, I really expect everything to kind of consolidate into a line as we go later into the evening. We go into day 2. This is our lowest threat out of all 4 days here. We have a marginal risk for severe weather, but you know how it goes in the summertime. Small changes within the mesoscale here towards the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere can can cause new opportunities for storms to develop and be a little bit stronger. So there's a chance that this could get upgraded to a slight risk. If it does get upgraded, it's unclear as to where it would be as of right now. So we'll kind of stick with that marginal risk for right now, but have an asterisk right next to it. I cannot speak today worth anything. And then it's from Thursday where things kind of get more interesting. I did drop a members only video on this, so if you are a member and you haven't watched it, definitely recommend that you do, because I go a little bit more in depth with this and why this day and also Friday particularly interest me. We're going to have an increase in low level jet towards these areas as well. So we're going to have increased chance for all hazards of severe weather, including tornadoes. I think for the most part, this hatch risk might be for damaging wind or hail. Tornado threat, I would still expect it to be on the lower end of the spectrum, maybe the 2 to 5% range. But we'll see how things progress throughout the day with that. And then, of course, we have our day 4 slight risk as well. Our day 4 slight risk is again over towards the northern states, maybe even stretching into Canada a bit. But either way, I would expect towards this region we would have an increased chance of severe weather and all hazards possible. There is a small chance in my eyes that we might get an upgrade to an enhanced risk with this setup here. But we'll really have to see what the thermals and the lower to mid levels of the atmosphere will end up doing with this as we progress throughout Friday as well. As for the rest of these days, we already know the drill. This has been the trend throughout the entire summer season, predictability to low tags, because we've been hit with nothing but surprises, it feels like, in regards to summer, and I don't expect too much to change here. So, quick look at the time frame in which we would expect these storms to really start to take off here. If I can get this to work, geez. There we go. And what you'll see is storms really would start to develop probably within the next hour of you seeing this video, and within 2.5 hours of me making this video. You can see by the time we get towards about 6 o'clock central, these storms are really starting to take off at this point, and look at how everything starts to congeal into a line by the time we get towards 8 o'clock. And then we'll watch this begin to slow down as we get into the overnight and have a leftover MCS by the time we get into tomorrow morning. Looking beyond that point, we of course are looking at the GFS and the Euro, as you'll see in the bottom left corner of the screen. The timing of this is a little bit off because my computer's a little laggy today, but the main things to pick up on is the dominant pattern of troughing that we'll see towards the northern states going forward, before this eventually shifts into the southern states and also towards the Ohio Valley in particular. So I think the Midwest and Ohio Valley in particular is going to be where we end up seeing that increased chance of severe weather going forward as we go towards the middle and maybe the back half of the month as well. If you look on the Euro, we see something relatively similar, but the progression seems to be a little bit faster and a little bit less stormy. So there are some questions, of course, as we go into the longer range here, but I would at least say up to the first half of the month, things seem rather busy, to say the least here. Depending on how deep the troughing gets will determine just how far south the storm potential ends up going. All while in the meanwhile, we have this big ridge out towards the southwest here. So the excessively hot temperatures over here will continue to remain, and then also we're going to have anywhere on the downslope of this to have a chance of some increased shower and storm activity as well. Of course, as we mentioned before, we're in hurricane season, and we're going to occasionally see these little bold runs from GFS in particular about storms forming and maybe making close passes to the U.S. coastline right now. As I mentioned before, though, we are so far out of range of being certain of anything, so I would recommend that you do not read too deeply into this and don't heed the people that are talking about immediate land impacts when the storm itself is 15 days out on that particular model run. It's just foolhardy. But let's go ahead and shift over to a lower level of the atmosphere so we can get a good look at what's going on with our thunderstorm potential going forward here. So Euro here pretty much is showing the same thing as what we were seeing at the 500 millibar map with both GFS and Euro. They're in relatively good agreement in the short range to medium range. It's really the long range where our questions remain, but I'll be putting most of our attention towards our severe weather threats over towards the northern plains, Midwest, and maybe the Ohio Valley as well. Southeast is a little bit of a question mark, but I do think potential could be there as well as we get towards the middle part of the month. But we'll have to see how things progress with that there. So next we'll go ahead and take a look at our temperatures and our dew points as well. It's pretty much the same old song and dance with the dew points, so not really much surprise to be had here. What we're going to be putting most of our focus towards right now really is going to be over towards the southwest in regards to our temperatures. We're still in the 100 teens, maybe even heading into the 120s on the heat index alone. But it is going to be a little bit drier towards these regions, which could be of some benefit. It's going to help keep those indices just a little bit lower. We're still going to have plenty of 80s and 90s here towards the eastern half of the U.S. as well. As we get further into the month here, you can see a little bit of a heat dome beginning to develop here towards the very end of that model run as well. So just because we're a little bit cooler right now, it's still summertime, and Mother Nature is going to make that very clear to all of us, it seems. So we're getting a little break, but the heat isn't going anywhere just yet. Again, looking at the dew points, we already know the deal. Anywhere east of the Mississippi and over towards the Gulf states, we know the deal. Plenty of moisture to go around. Oppressive humidities does not make for a good time. Once you're west of the Rockies, dew points kind of drop off just a little bit unless you're over towards the west coast here, and even then the dew points aren't super oppressive, at least not until that first week, unless you're over towards the monsoonal region, over towards like southern Arizona, for example. That's where we start to get those 60-degree plus dew points. And maybe, depending on how that ridge sets up, we'll still have opportunities for some showers and thunderstorms. We can get some surface moisture that'll help keep the wildfire threat down, because one thing that we don't want towards this region are those dry thunderstorms. So big issues in both the short and the long run there. So let's go ahead and get a good look at our instability here and match that up with the flash density that we have. We're kind of using both products from both the GFS and Euro. They're pretty exclusive to one another here on Pivotal Weather. So, like I said before, as far as severe weather potential is concerned, looking at the excessive Cape value, honestly, over here, attention definitely is shifting more so towards the more so towards the Midwest and Ohio Valley, especially as we get further along into the run here. And it's pretty well reflected on the flash density as well. The brighter the color here, the more lightning flashes you are likely to see based off of this. So when you start seeing those pinks, those magentas and white colors here, that says a lot about the activity we can anticipate here. And again, as I mentioned before, even if you are under a ridge by chance, you can still get those popcorn thunderstorms. If you aren't directly under the high pressure here, you can still get enough of a lifting mechanism to get storms going. It's just a little bit less likely to get severe storms out of that as a result. So just because we have a big ridge over the southwest and the south central plains here does not mean your thunderstorm chances are zero. We've seen plenty of severe thunderstorm warnings throughout the year towards these regions as well. So lastly, of course, we're going to take a look at our precipitation outlook here. And things kind of get interesting when we get a good look at this, especially over the course of this first week here. Widespread activity still looks like it's going to be the dominant feature over anywhere east of the Mississippi for a bit, but we are going to see a little bit of a change here, and we're also going to start to warm up as a result of said change. It's been very cloudy over here. In fact, yesterday towards my area, we didn't even break 70. That was actually recorded as a record low high temperature over towards my area. So this kind of shows how stormy it's been over here. And I'm honestly not complaining about it. I wish it could stay like this for the rest of summer, honestly, or at least for a few weeks, especially with me working again. But either way, though, and again, don't read into this because, like I said, this is not set in stone at all. But either way, the eastern half of the U.S. definitely looks like it's still going to remain pretty busy. Over towards the northern plains is our severe weather potential. And then from that point, we also need to still watch over towards the monsoonal region, especially towards this first week and a half or so. I do think we'll have some storm chances, but they'll be kind of few and far in between. But, of course, I mentioned before, the northern plains, the Midwest, and the Ohio Valley are going to be where we see the most action at this point. Again, we'll keep an eye on the tropics, but I wouldn't get so worked up if you were to see something pop up on the models, especially once we're past the 10 to 15 day, or past that 10-day range and heading into the 15, which is exactly what we see here, and then of course here as well. So that being said, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. Make sure you smash that like button and decimate that subscribe button, and leave a comment on your thoughts with the forecast here. With that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you guys very soon.